Today on Rappler, Southeast Asian leaders ask Beijing for a code of conduct for the South China Sea at the close of the 22nd ASEAN Summit. The Philippines comes closer to elevating its claim to islands in the South China Sea to an international tribunal.
The figures that we generated were all from a sample survey. This survey that we said, it had nothing to do with the census figures, which he seems to be attributing it to.
And the Philippine Statistics Agency had defends its poverty data after President Aquino questions its numbers. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. Southeast Asian leaders call for urgent talks with China to ensure that tense territorial disputes over the South China Sea will not escalate into violence. The 10-member Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, wraps up a two-day summit in Brunei with the chairman's statement emphasizing the importance of peace, stability, and maritime security in the region. In a press conference after the summit, Brunei's Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah says the leaders wanted to, quote, urgently work on a code of conduct with China following concern among some Southeast Asian countries over China's aggression in claiming the waters. ASEAN members Brunei, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Vietnam claim parts of the sea. In July 2012, an ASEAN foreign ministers meeting ended without a joint communique because of divisions over how to handle the issue. Southeast Asian leaders say the 2013 summit led to a regained sense of unity within ASEAN about the issue. ASEAN and China first agreed to work on a code in 2002, but China has since refused to discuss it further. Philippine President Benigno Aquino says he's happy ASEAN leaders united to ensure maritime disputes did not, quote, become bloody. Indonesian Foreign Minister Marty Natalegawa says ASEAN foreign ministers will hold talks with China during an event in Beijing later in the year. The International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, ITLAW, appoints all 5 members of the United Nations Conventions on the Law of the Sea to hear the territorial case filed by the Philippines against China over the South China Sea or the West Philippine Sea. On January 22, the Philippines elevated the territorial dispute over the West Philippine Sea to Annex 7 arbitration under the UNCLOS because of the standoff between the Philippine Navy and Chinese fishing vessels that entered Scarborough Shoal. The government wants the tribunal to declare China's 9-dash claim as, quote, invalid and unlawful. The Philippine Navy denies reports Navy personnel shot and killed 35 Sulu militants trying to enter Malaysia. Reports in Malaysian media say the militants were killed by personnel from the Philippine Naval and Coast Guard forces before they entered Malaysia. The Star newspaper in Malaysia, quoting Malaysian Defense Minister Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, says the group attempted to enter Sabah to, quote, cause problems during the Malaysian general elections. But the Philippine Navy says there's no report coming from the Tawi-Tawi Naval Task Force commander. The Interior Department, Commission on Elections, and the National Telecommunications Commission launch a campaign asking the public to report signal jammers or anyone possessing the devices. Signal jammers block cell phone and Wi-Fi connections within 10 to 20 meters. Government agencies fear it may be used to deliberately interfere with the transmission of results on Election Day.
Hindi po tama, hindi po legal ang gamit itong mga bagay na ito sa araw ng halalan. No? Sa araw ng halalan. Mas mabuti na lahat tayo ay nagmamasid, lahat tayo alerto, lahat tayo ay magbabantay. Yung mga magkakatunggali sa bawat lugar, sila mismo magbabantayan imbes na hindi natin ito ibunyag sa publiko.
NTC Commissioner Gamaliel Cordoba says signal jammers are illegal. Cordoba says the NTC has not released any permits for ownership or importation of the devices, so all who own signal jammers possess smuggled items. Brillante says jammers will not affect the results of the elections, but they may cause a day or two of delays.
Ang target namin dito sa automated election na ito, as soon as the voting is finished at may pinindot na buton sa PICOS, magta-transmit na agad yan.
Senator Miriam Santiago says she sees a 9-3 win for Team Pinoy in the May senatorial elections. In a speech before the Philippine Masons in Iloilo City Wednesday, Santiago says she sees 9 candidates from administration coalition Team Pinoy and 3 candidates from the opposition United Nationalist Alliance forming the Senate, with UNA members Gringo Anasan and Jack Enrile fighting for the last slot. Santiago also says the next Senate president will come from the administration coalition, naming Cynthia Villar, Sergio Osmeña III, Frank Drilon, TG Gingona, possibly replacing Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile. Santiago also says the Iglesia ni Cristo bloc vote could radically change the survey trends. Former President Joseph Estrada says he may file a disqualification case against Alfredo Lim, his rival for the mayor of Manila. Estrada says there's no proof that incumbent Manila Mayor Lim was born in the Philippines.
We cannot find any certification. And he cannot produce one. People said to know what is really is that will be falsification of public document.
In a press conference on April 4th, Estrada's son, Senator Jinggoy Estrada, earlier brought up the issue of Lim's citizenship, saying the National Statistics Office does not have Lim's birth certificate. But he added, "We will not file a disqualification case, unlike him, who filed 3 disqualification cases against my father." Lim denies he was behind the disqualification bids against Estrada. This is not the first time Lim's citizenship is being questioned. In 1998, a disqualification case was filed against Lim when he ran for president. With 3 weeks before the elections, Estrada says it is not too late for him to have Lim disqualified. The Commission on Elections launches a website and mobile app to help voters learn more about the upcoming midterm polls. This is Election 2013, a free website and mobile app developed jointly by the COMELEC and Bitupi. Bitupi is a group of young programmers from Smart Communications Inc. Election allows users to practice filling out a sample ballot, look for the nearest precinct, learn COMELEC's campaign rules, and report campaign violations through text and photos. The website is accessible at report.mycomelec.tv. The mobile app will initially be available for iOS devices and will soon be available for Android-powered smartphones. The Sandigan Bayan orders the arrest of retired military comptroller Jacinto Ligot over perjury charges filed against him last week. The court also issues a whole departure order against him. On April 13th, the Office of the Ombudsman filed 11 counts of perjury charges against Ligot before the Sandigan Bayan. On March 6, Ligot won a temporary reprieve from the Supreme Court when it lifted a 2005 freeze order on his assets amounting to 54 million pesos. He's accused of making numerous false declarations in his statements of assets, liabilities, and net worth from 1993 to 2003. Ligot, his wife, and children are accused of amassing 700 million pesos in ill-gotten wealth from military coffers. President Benigno Aquino questions the latest survey statistics because he said they were based on the wrong population data. The National Statistical Coordination Board reports poverty incidence stands at 27.9%, virtually unchanged from the same period in 2009 and 2006. In a briefing Thursday, Aquino says, "I have a bit of a doubt since they used the wrong population data, which is basis for computing per capita income. How then can you properly compare 2009 and 2012? Aquino says the 2009 population numbers are, quote, questionable and may not be comparable to the 2012 numbers because his administration improved the population data, particularly in areas like the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. ARMM is also the region with the highest poverty incidence nationwide at 46.9% of families living below the poverty line in the first semester of 2012. The president says the administration's programs reduced poverty incidence in other regions, citing the Conditional Cash Transfer Program that covers 3.8 million families in 2012. National Statistical Coordination Board Secretary General Jose Ramon Albert defends his agency's poverty data, showing the 2012 poverty incidence unchanged from the same period in 2009 and 2006. On Thursday, as we just told you, Aquino questions the numbers, saying the report may have used the wrong population data to compute per capita income. But Albert responds, he says the NSCB figures came from a sample survey, not census numbers.
The figures that we generated were all from a sample survey. This survey that we said, it had nothing to do with the census figures, which he seems to be attributing it to. The way we calculate per capita is actually directly from the household itself. When you come up with the total household income, you find out what is the number of persons in the household sampled.
Yes.
You divide that, that's the per capita income.
Right.
So total population figures in an area have no bearing. So we did not actually calculate numbers of population directly.
Correct. Although poverty incidence on the average is unchanged, Albert says this does not mean the government has not done anything.
As far as the poor is concerned, the percentages have not changed. When you start drilling down, particularly you will examine, for instance, as across the regions, again, there are we could not see major changes in poverty rates. But if you look at Caraga in particular, from 2009 to 2012, there was a decline.
Behind every palaro player is a coach who molds raw talent into fighters. Devin Wang reports.
Athletes rely on their bodies to perform and depend on the agility of youth. For every athlete, there's a time when their strength and passion coincide to mark a peak in their sports careers. But for the coaches and trainers who devote a lifetime's commitment to each generation of new athletes, there's pleasure in watching the seasons change.
It's not at all a very hard job, but we are helping people grow.
Most athletes would be proud to say they've been to one palaro, but this is Juan's number 10. He says he sometimes feeds his athletes out of his own pocket during training because he believes they'll be his legacy. The power of support and dedicated coaching has real-life impact on young minds.
Ay, invite po ako ng coach ko na mag-taekwondo kasi po nakita niya po na may potential ako. Tsaka po nung grade 3 na po ako, tsaka po nag-grade 4, linipat po ako dun sa UP para po kunin ng scholarship. Tsaka po maging varsity.
Irvin's coach didn't hesitate to give him free training when he realized his family couldn't afford his lessons.
You treat them as your family, and you share all the things that they need to learn. I sacrifice, of course. I put up my own gym for the kids, and I'm trying my best to expose them. I'm trying my best to support them.
Coaches and trainers at Palaro put in countless hours without the promise of spotlight or medal. Their commitment to sports rewards them with the most noble satisfaction of knowing their philosophies will move on with their athletes.
Malay ko ba na one day yung tinuturuan ko pala is maging mayor or dahil sa taekwondo there's a discipline.
Coaches help athletes recognize their own potential.
I won the gold medal.
And remind us that maybe everyone could use a sideline supporter. Devin Wang, Rappler, Dumaguete.
Central Visayas scores the biggest upset day 4 of Palarong Pambansa when they eliminated 5-time finalist Western Visayas in the quarterfinals of the secondary girls volleyball tournament. Janelle Cabahug and Rica Rivera stunned their Bacolod counterparts to join NCR, Northern Mindanao, and Calabar Zone in the Final Four. In swimming, Regina Castillo bags her 6th gold medal. She set the record in the 100-meter butterfly in the preliminaries before breaking it again when she clocked at 1 minute and 6.92 seconds in the finals. Catherine Bondad and Rafael Barreto finished the day with 5 gold medals each. NCR continues to dominate the standings with 129 medals, 57 of which are gold. Western Visayas trails with 66, followed by Calabar Zone with 48 medals. Central Luzon claims the 4th spot, finishing with 37 medals, overtaking Central Visayas, which ends the day with 31.